You're listening to the Scottish Squash Podcast, featuring national coach Paul Bell.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 8 of the Scottish Squash Podcast. This week we're going to talk about the national championships that we had a couple of weeks ago. We've got the new and 9-time champion, Clyne, who's joining us, who won the men's event, and obviously Kev is here with myself just to have a little review about how the event went. First of all, we just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that off of the back of the nationals, we have now selected our teams for the European Championships. So it's always exciting to see who's going to be representing Scotland for this current season. Hopefully you saw our announcements on social media and our fancy videos that we put together of all the players. That was the handiwork of Kevin. So Kevin, how did you go about producing the videos of the players who are going to be playing for Scotland this year? How was that?
Well, first of all, it was convincing them that it was a good idea. That was probably the hardest drag of all. And then it was just getting a green screen off of Amazon, and then about 20 hours of my time just to play around with it. But it was well worth it, and the feedback that we had from them was fantastic. So if we can try and build on that and keep creating new innovative ways to showcase our players, then that's fantastic in my eyes.
Did anybody shine on the camera? Who was the natural?
They all had their little qualities to them. I'd say that we did a celebrations video actually that will be getting released when we're down in Birmingham, and I have to say the girls absolutely smashed the guys in that respect, probably just because they had a little bit more time to think about it, but their celebrations are very special.
Oh well, let's hope we have plenty of wins down in Birmingham so we can show them off. So alongside our announcements and the European Championships, we are actually running a kind of a support event. So because it doesn't often happen in the UK, the European Championships, so we're trying to take the opportunity to give the Scottish community and the Scottish team supporters a chance to come down to Birmingham for the weekend and cheer us on, hopefully in the latter stages of the event. And so we've got a couple of things on. Kevin, you're in charge of that one. Do you want to give us a little details of how people can get involved?
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to get an idea of numbers at the moment. So the closing date for signing up for the event is next week. I think it's the 28th or something like that of April. Of April? March. Yeah, March. And So the main premise of it is that we're going to go down on the 3rd and return on the 4th. We're going to make sure that we're in Birmingham bags of time in order to see the first Scottish match. Maybe potentially get a hit at a local Birmingham club, stay overnight in a hotel, and then do the same thing in the morning. Potentially have a hit at a club, and then go and support our Scottish athletes in the afternoon of the Saturday. So it'll be a fantastic event. It costs £150 for your travel, accommodation, and then potentially a hit at a local club and tickets as well for the event. So in our eyes, a fantastic deal, and hopefully we'll be able to provide a great kind of friendly, supporting atmosphere that will help our athletes perform to the best that they can.
Yeah. Clyne, how does it sound? How are you excited about the possibility of having a big Scottish crowd supporting the teams on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's going to be my 15th Europeans coming up, and we have had people coming over to support before, but never like a big group of people. So what Kev's envisioning, trying to get like a big bus full of supporters, it's going to be great and make it feel like a home Europeans, because we've never had a home Europeans before. We've had a home Commonwealth Games and had some home tournaments before, but never for a European. So yeah, very excited for that.
And the Europeans is a great event. There isn't that many times that you get to play as a team as an international squash player. So to take advantage of this opportunity and to see some of the best players in action and to see Scotland performing on the top stage will be really valuable and certainly worth £150 if you're free that weekend. So what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the nationals for this week. First of all, it was brilliant to see the size of the draws. We had 32 men and I think it was 18 women playing in the event, which is certainly up on last time, or the last few years anyway. And what kind of happened was I set Kev and Kylie a challenge to go out there and make this happen. Only a couple of weeks before the event, we didn't have that higher numbers in, so I was like, right, I'll give you both a little treat if you can try and get the numbers up to 32 and 16. So obviously they were both successful in that. Do you want to give us a little insight into how you managed to do that, Kev? What was your plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main reason that people don't enter nationals in the first place is that they just feel it's too elite a tournament for them. Yeah. So the top 16 in Scotland are going to play it. It's always a really strong event with regards to that. But a lot of the club members that potentially would be interested in playing a tournament get put off because they're like, oh, well, I'm going to come up against Alan Clyne, Rory Stewart, all these kind of guys. So what's the point? I'm going to get smashed off the court and they're not going to see any value in it. So why would I play it? And it's absolutely not the case. And I'm sure as Alan would say as well, it's nice to play against a variety of players, and it's not tedious in the slightest playing club players. So I feel like they just get put off initially because they're scared of coming up against that caliber of player. But it's absolutely not the case. And I think that the tactic that I went down was just to say that we're actually going to have a more kind of larger variety of standards and players entering the event, and all of a sudden you get 15 people just kicking back to you saying that they would absolutely love to do it. Well, why didn't you think about doing that in the first place? It was so hopefully that's just the start of nationals now becoming this kind of bigger animal that ends up becoming that we end up with a 64 draw, because we've definitely got the potential and the scope to do that in Scotland, but it's just something that we've never really had before because of the kind of elite nature of what people's perception of nationals is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the premier event of our individual event of the Scottish Squash calendar, and it's there for all the Scottish players, and we want to see as many people as possible and as many different people as possible playing in that event and supporting it. Like, Clyne, from your point of view, like, how is that event, and what are you looking for, and how did it feel this year to have a different group of players playing in it?
Yeah, when I saw the entry list, I was quite surprised, like pleasantly surprised, obviously, to see 32 draw in the men's, and even more so having 18 women playing. When in previous years, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but it's never been as high as that. I don't think it's ever been as high as that since I've been playing, and so I think it's great for Scotland to have such a big event. I know, like, some of the other national events, like maybe the French and the British, they have to like narrow it down to have to make it smaller because everyone wants to play. And it would be great if Scotland was getting to that stage where you have so much interest, because I know, like, in some of the early rounds there might be some mismatches, but definitely by the Saturday evening and the Sunday you see players battling away for all the positions, and then also getting to watch other players having good tight matches, and that's what it's all about, really, getting everyone playing in Scotland.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, it's an absolute bargain getting the chance to pay 20 quid and potentially come up against Alan Clyne or a Greg Lobban or a Lisa Itkin. So you don't get many opportunities to do that. So it's a perfect chance to test yourself out against some of the best players in the world, and certainly the best players in Scotland. So well done, Kev, Kylie. That was a great job on your guys, and just kind of a call out to the rest of the Scottish squash community to see if we can continue to grow the event. And like Kev said, 64-32 might be the targets next year. Let's get everyone involved. So from my point of view, I was there all weekend watching a lot of squash, with a view to see how all of our players were performing. And I was really, really pleased with the quality and the level of squash that was on show over the weekend and all the way through the draw. We had the juniors that stepped up to try and compete against some of the more established senior players, and we had obviously our top guys there showing off what they're capable of doing. So obviously we had some two really high quality finals, which we can go into in a little while, but just the strength and depth of Scottish squash at the moment is something that is really encouraging and I'm really pleased with. And hopefully it's going to show when we go down to start competing. We've got all the junior teams competing over the next few weeks. And obviously, as we've talked about, the European Championship. So the more of this that we can have and the more exposure and opportunity that all the players in Scotland are receiving is obviously doing a good job, and all the clubs, all the coaches out there, like, it's great to see that the work that you guys are putting in is having a positive impact to help the level of every Scottish player just keep progressing up and up. So Clyne, just touching on that final, like we were going to have Lisa Aiken here, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. So we'll focus on the men's final. How was it for you? It was obviously a tough affair, you and Greg, as always. Yeah. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, it's always a really tough match when I go up against Greg. Played him numerous times, and another very close one. I think all the games were close. 2 of them went to tie breaks. He had game balls, I had game balls, and I managed to sneak them out. So yeah, it was tough. Obviously afterwards, you're really tired. I'm not sure how long the match was, probably over an hour for just 3 games. Yeah. I think the thing is with Greg and I, we know each other's games very well. We kind of know where each other's putting the ball, so it ends up the rallies go on for quite a long time. So yeah, I was happy to sneak it out, but it was tough, and hopefully it was good for the crowd to see that. Like when they have at Edinburgh Sports Club, it's kind of like a bear pit thing where you get the crowd on top of you. So I like playing there, and hopefully they had a good match to watch.
Yeah, well, it certainly was a treat for everyone that came down to watch. The quality and the level of squash was phenomenal, and the thing is, it goes on and on and on when you guys are playing, because as you say, you know each other's games so well, and your athletic ability for both of you is brilliant. So every ball is gettable. It keeps on coming back. I think that court at Edinburgh Sports Club is quite a bouncy court anyway, so the rallies are just going on, and it's kind of who can stick in both physically and mentally the longest, which obviously suits your game pretty well. You're a bit, some would say, unbeatable on that court in Edinburgh Sports Club. So I think one of the great things about, I've obviously watched you guys play a lot, but it wasn't just that physical aspect that was the thing that was the most pleasing from my point of view, but the quality of play, the style of squash. And throughout the whole weekend, that was kind of what I was looking at from all of the players to see, are we just relying on our physicality, or are we becoming much better squash players? And you guys showed it off perfectly that it was tight squash. You were volleying, you were positioning yourself around the court, you were using the front effectively, you were mixing up heights, you were mixing up speeds of play, and that is the secret to being brilliant squash players, not just having a high level of physicality, but the squash across the board in Scotland, from what I can see and what I believe, is improving dramatically. So it's a really positive signs and really pleasing from my point of view to see that happening. So well done, Clyne. It was great for you. How many titles is that? I said 9 at the start. Is that right?
Yeah, 9. Yeah.
9. There's a bit of a Twitter debate going on about how many it had been and how many rows. Have you had? What's your consecutive streak?
6
in a row. It's pretty impressive with the level of players that we've had come through over the years. Been strong. So congratulations again. So what we wanted to try and do for the remainder of the podcast was kind of delve into the life and career of Alan Clyne, to try and piece together some ideas about how has he managed to become the 9-time Scottish champion, how has he had the career that he's had, and obviously we're by no means saying that it's over or anything like that. There's still a long way to go, but it's quite a milestone to get up to 9 Scottish championships. So what if we go into how was your junior career? Let's just keep these things brief, but how did squash start for you, and how was squash from a junior point of view?
Well, I'm from up north, Inverness Tennis and Squash Club. So I started squash there when I think I was either 4 or 5 years old. Right. I went down to the local club, and there was a local junior session going on. There's 20 of us there to start with, and I think I was the only one there after 6 months. But I kept it going. I really liked the sport, but I played it alongside a lot of other sports at the time. Basically every sport in school, and a lot of football outside school. And then, when playing at Inverness, eventually, probably when I was about 10 years old, I think I played my first junior tournament. Remember playing junior nationals down here at Heriot Watt, actually, under 12s it was back then. And then, eventually I think I made the Scottish team when I think I was probably 11 or 12, for a home internationals. And then, still was part of the Scottish team. Actually, I was part of the Heriot Watt Squash Academy when I was about 12, which has changed and become the Scottish National Performance Programme and stuff now. But originally it was just the Heriot Watt Squash Academy. And that kind of helped me improve my game. I came down here it's been about 4 times a year to play at the weekend, train, and then that gave me an idea of things to improve when I was back up in Inverness. And then I played a lot of the junior tournaments, the likes of Nordic Junior Opens, Irish Junior Opens, all that. But the best result I had in those junior tournaments was my last ever junior tournament when I was 18. I played the Dutch Junior Open and I came 4th. Right. And I had never done any better than that in any of those junior tournaments. I played the British Junior Open once when I was 18 as well, but I think I came maybe 48th or something like that. I don't know exactly, but it was never anywhere near the top. So juniors I wasn't one of the top juniors. I went to the World Juniors in Pakistan, Islamabad. It was also the same thing. I think I made last 64. I won my first round. But then lost to Chris Gordon. So juniors wasn't that great, but I definitely improved a lot more after that.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, multi-sports, as we talked a lot on the last junior nationals podcast about that, and obviously there's the Roger Federer video that's been going around on Twitter. But multi-sports for Clyne, let's say not necessarily. Excelling yourself as a junior player. You weren't one of these, I'm sure you weren't coming down to Edinburgh thinking, I'm going to be the next world champion. It was just you love your sport, you kept plugging away at it, but alongside all the other things that you enjoyed doing as well. So then you came down to Edinburgh?
Yeah, I came down to Edinburgh when I was 17, turning 18, to go to university, but also I kind of chose the university in Edinburgh because I wanted to continue my squash, and this was where the best place to be to play squash was. And then my the level of training just went up, like volume of training especially went up massively. So even though I was at university and I would do lectures from like 9 a.m. most days, obviously I'd have some breaks during the day. You're at university, you don't do as much as a full-time job, but I was training a lot. So I would train usually before university, so sometimes it was 6 a.m. sessions to get in, so then I could get across Edinburgh to Edinburgh University, which is at the other side of Edinburgh, to then do my lectures and then train again in the evening. So I was doing 2 sessions a day, 6 days a week pretty much, and that was a massive volume increase from what I was doing when I was up in Inverness, and I think that's one of the main reasons why my game improved so much. Obviously the level of training is a lot more, but it just gave me a real understanding of what it requires. And although when I went down to university, I definitely wanted to continue playing squash and improve my squash, but it wasn't like a big goal of I'm going to be X number in the world or whatever. It was just keeping my squash going and trying to improve and see where it gets to.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Like when we had a little discussion about Clyne's journey previous to the podcast, and one of the things that was really interesting for me was that, so you came down with three guys all from Inverness, roughly similar standard, And then you talked about within 6 months, you'd kind of left those guys behind and you were the one that was setting yourself apart. That's something that happens a lot. You come to uni with a group of players that you're all kind of a similar standard with. And what we're looking for as coaches and as a programmer is who is going to set themselves apart, who is going to embrace this opportunity to be down here and then become the next world beater, become the next Scottish champion, and go above and beyond to make themselves or get the most out of themselves as a squash player. So what do you think it was on reflection now looking back that was different for you than the other two players that you came down with?
I mean, it's hard to say what was going on from their point of view. I think they weren't from Inverness. One of them was from Shetland, Jamie Macaulay, and the other one was from Aberdeen, Graham Melvin, and they were very good friends of mine, also the same age, which kind of helped throughout juniors. We played throughout all juniors, so that when you have players around similar ability and similar age, you kind of push each other on, and we definitely had that. And then we all moved down together to Edinburgh. And yeah, when I won the junior nationals my last year when I was 18, that was my only junior nationals I won, but I managed to win that. We were all pretty similar at that stage. But yeah, I did manage to improve a lot. I think definitely when I came down, I definitely had a mindset for hard work and putting in as much as possible, like never accepting anything less. Like if I knew I hadn't put in when I really should have, then it kind of I knew within myself. I didn't need other people to tell me or like to be watching for me to do the hard work. I always would do the extra sessions when I was away. But I definitely had a motivation to improve and put everything in, and I think that definitely helped me, because within 6 months to a year I was pushing on and playing a lot of BSPA tournaments, which aren't around anymore, but they were like just tournaments in Britain where you could play a lot of the guys. It was a lot of players who were top players and are still around because there was a lot of money in it. So guys like Simon Park and Tim Vale, Stephen Meads at the time. So they were really, really useful for us to kind of test ourselves against guys who were experienced, very good players, and to get that competitive edge and try and see whether you could make anything off this. And when I started playing them, I got a few good wins, and then that gave me confidence of what the work I was doing. And then when you get the results, that usually gives you confidence to push on and do even more. And through my 4 years of uni, I definitely improved a lot, and they were big time for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems as though you kind of, throughout that period at university, you went from a player who was just loving his squash, wanted to make the best of it, to, I'm guessing by the time you'd finished or were coming to the end of uni, you were pretty much seriously thinking about a career as in the sport.
Definitely by the end of my second year of university, that was becoming more in the forefront of my mind. And then third year, I stepped up more competitions, but never like PSAs. And then by the fourth year, I had started playing PSAs in my time that I had away from university. When I did teaching, PE teaching at university, so I did have times where it was placement, and that was time when it was tough to even do training, never mind competitions, but I was able to fit in a few PSA tournaments. I remember one of my first ones was in Tenerife, actually, and going there, I chose that one specifically, got a bit of sun there. But yeah, I played a few of those, and then there were some tournaments in Scotland to get my ranking up to a decent level. So then once I finished my fourth year, there wasn't really any thought of becoming a teacher. It was definitely, I'm going to try and give pro squash a go by that stage.
Cool. Which is great. I mean, would you say that it was the work ethic that you had and the standards that you set for yourself when you were here, that was the thing that set yourself apart from the others?
Yeah, I think I definitely had good work ethic. It's hard to know what to say to compare to others. I know they put in a lot of work as well, but yeah, I definitely had a lot of work ethic. I've had that from when I was young as well. So, and I think that's, for me, it's one of the key components. I think you obviously got to have talent as well, but talent and work ethic together is going to be key.
So when you're looking at some of our younger Scottish players that are coming up, like what's the key thing that you're looking for out of them to make a judgment upon whether you think they could potentially have an opportunity in the sport?
Yeah, I think I think work ethic is probably one of the number ones. When you have that, then you can, for me, you can build the other things. I think you've got to have a good attitude as well. Like if you've got to have some ability, but like if you've got that work ethic, then you can improve everything. And the players that I've seen in the program that have improved the most are the ones that come down and are really focused on what they want to do. They're putting in the extra sessions. Sometimes when I come around to Idiot Watt and there's someone doing ghosting just by themselves that have like no one around, then I'm thinking this person could go places.
Yeah. Okay. So going above and beyond and having that little bit of extra motivation to do the extra work is I think I totally agree. It's kind of a non-negotiable, and it's the thing that we're looking as coaches, and obviously other players take notice of it as well, that if you're that person that's willing to do that little bit extra, not just what's expected or asked of you, then you're probably going to be one of those people that will set themselves apart. I think there's potentially a little bit of modesty coming out in Clyne. So if we turn it to Kev, obviously you've seen Clyne for a number of years and seen him, whether you've seen him transition into going from a good player to a great player, but you've certainly seen his work ethic and the way he goes about becoming the best squash player that he can be. And how would you describe Clyne as a player, squash player, in terms of his approach to being a professional squash player?
As an animal, that's what he's like. No, I mean it's no surprise. Obviously, hold him in high regards. And even when I was 16, 17, we could see whenever we come through to GEPs or anything like that, we might get there a little bit early and see the guys training their 7 a.m. session before it used to kick off. And it was fantastic. I always remember just wanting to be like one of those guys and looking to like Clyne and just his work ethic. And that to me was actually what made me want to try and take it a step further and move to Edinburgh, was just his focus in training and just his kind of attitude of wanting to go and run after the ball and just hit it straight away and none of this kind of pussyfooting around with it. So that to me was one of the main reasons that I wanted to move to Edinburgh, was his kind of attitude, and why I kept from being a bit of a ballsy kid, just trying to ask Clyne if I could sleep on his floor and stuff like that. Like whenever I had a spare week here and there, was someone that I wanted to try and emulate when I was a kid. So yeah, it's still ongoing just now. The likes of like Rory Stewart's a prime example of someone that he constantly just calls Alan his hero. Whether it's take it with a bit of salt, but it's no surprise that he's still that kind of role model to kids out there as well.
Absolutely. It was I did a review with a player who I won't name, and he was talking about having Clyne around in the group and how great it was to see the level of attention to detail and the work ethic of Clyne when he's around, because obviously he's split his time between America and Edinburgh now, and he's obviously playing a lot of events, so he's not here full time, but when he does come in, you can certainly see a big difference and a change in the way people are around him. He just sets that tone for how the level of expectation, the standard that's required. And one of the players was just like, oh, I really wanted to speak to Clyne, but then I couldn't bring myself. I had all these questions, and then as soon as I was near him, I couldn't get one of them out. I'm not going to name
who was it.
I'm not going to name who it is. Answers on a postcard for that one. But like, he still has this presence within the group, and he sets the standard, and that is something that we're looking for from everyone. Like, we're very lucky that we have Clyne to do it, but we're also looking for the next Clyne to step up and be the person who's going to set that standard. And from a coach's point of view, we're constantly on the lookout for who those players are who are demonstrating those types of behaviours right from a young age. I'm sure that Clyne didn't just start demonstrating those attitudes and behaviours when he came to uni. I'm sure he demonstrated them as a junior as well. And while he might not necessarily have been the best junior in the world, probably was held in high regards with the coaches, because they were like, if he comes to Edinburgh and has this attitude when he's here, then he's going to go places. Like, as soon as the opportunities are there, then he will flourish. And in Scotland, we aren't the same as in Egypt or Malaysia or something like that, where we're blessed with thousands of squash players at a young age who are all desperate to become the next world number one. We're looking out for the kind of slow burners who will come into the sport, who just love the sport. They want to put in as much effort as they possibly can. And then potentially later on in their career, they will then flourish, take advantage of the opportunity, and become the next Alan Clynes and Lisa Atkins and Greg Lobbins of Scotland. And it's a model that we've kind of seen all the way through. It's very rare that we get world beaters at junior level, but we know that if they come into a university program or a senior program with the right attitude, then they will become great squash players. So it's definitely something to think about for the juniors that are out there. What sort of attitude are you bringing to the table? What is your level of work ethic and attention to detail when you're training? Because you don't necessarily need to be the best squash player right now, but if you have those attributes, then that is going to put you in good stead for the future. So Clyne, now you've kind of, as I said, you're splitting your time between America and here. Like, how's your career going now in the transition that you've had?
Yeah, and so in the past year, I've spent a lot more time over in the States. Obviously, my wife's over there a lot more than me, so we've got a place over there, and So I've been doing a lot more training. There's a lot of players in the area that we're in Port Chester, New York, and there's a lot of different players around. So I've been able to get mostly matches, but then also just different sessions with different players, and also seeing a couple of different coaches as well, which has been interesting, trying to see different points of view from that, and just taking charge. So I can really, like, I've done many years of had training kind of as a routine, and know that always Thursday night is going to be a group session, always Tuesday morning is going to be a weights, whereas now it's kind of I'm taking control and deciding when I want to do when I'm over in the States, and I find it's been useful. Sometimes it can be better when you know there's a session on, you know there's going to be people there. Other times when I'm in the States, sometimes people can call off and there can be different changes and you have to adapt to that. So there's obviously pros and cons, but there's been some great players, and I've taken a lot from that, I think. Had a tough start to this season, but I think my game's coming along a little better now, and I feel like I'm playing some decent squash. But I think it's kind of good to have kind of two bases. I love to come back to Scotland as well. I've still got my flat here, and being able to come and train with all the guys that I really enjoy it, and I definitely feel like I can get benefits from training here as well. So depending where the tournaments are is where I can base myself, and I think that's suiting me for where I am, like what my stage of the career at the moment, and still feel like I'm on the improving, trying to hopefully on an upward curve.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thanks very much for giving us a bit of an insight into how you've gotten to this point, and congratulations once again for 9 Scottish national titles. And hope the rest of the season goes well.
Thanks so much.
Okay, guys, well, thanks very much for listening, and we'll get back with another podcast in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on social media via Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, as well as our website, scottishsquash.org.